Good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'd like to call the Monday, June 1st, 2 p.m. meeting of the WRCOG Executive Committee meeting to order. If we could get a roll call, please.
Certainly. City of Banning. City of Calamasa.
Here.
City of Canyon Lake.
Here.
City of Corona.
Here.
City of Eastvale.
Here.
City of Hemet.
Here.
City of Yoruba Valley. Here. City of Lake Elsinore. Thank you. City of Menifee.
Here.
City of Moreno Valley.
Here.
City of Murrieta.
Here.
City of Norco.
Here.
City of Paris. Here. City of Riverside. City of San Jacinto.
Here.
City of Temecula.
Yo.
City of Wildemar. County of Riverside District 1. County of Riverside District 2. County of Riverside District 3.
District 3 is here.
Thank you, sir. County of Riverside District 5.
Here.
Eastern Municipal Water District. Western Municipal Water District. Riverside County Superintendent of Schools. Morongo Band of Mission Indians. WRCOG TAC Chair. That concludes roll call, and we do have quorum.
Thank you very much. I would ask if Kevin Jeffries would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Kevin Jeffries, County Supervisor, 1st District.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time we're going to take a recess of the WRCOG Executive Committee meeting to convene the meeting of the WRCOG Supporting Foundation, and we will reconvene once our items are completed. At this time, do we need to do another roll call?
Yes, sir.
We are back to the, if you would please take it.
Well,
Yeah. Just say aye if you're here.
it sounds like we have, it looks like maybe we have one additional person who has walked in since the last vote.
If we
Roll
would,
call?
please take a roll call.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. City of Banning.
Here.
City of Calamasa.
Here.
City of Canyon Lake.
Here.
City of Corona.
Here.
City of Eastvale.
Here.
City of Hemet.
Here.
City of Yoruba Valley. Here. City of Lake Elsinore. City of Menifee.
Here.
City of Moreno Valley.
Here.
City of Murrieta.
City of Murrieta is still here.
City of Norco.
Here.
City of Paris. City of Riverside. City of San Jacinto.
Here.
City of Temecula.
Ah.
Sir. City of Wildemar. County of Riverside District 1. County of Riverside District 2.
He's still not here.
County of Riverside District 3.
I'm still here.
County of Riverside District 5. Eastern Municipal Water District. Western Municipal Water District. Riverside County Superintendent of Schools. Morongo Band of Mission Indians.
Here.
WRCOG TAC Chair. That concludes roll call, and again, we still have quorum.
Okay. At this time, do we have any public comments who wishing to speak on the WRCOG Supporting Foundation?
I have none.
Okay. We have a consent calendar, and I am looking for a motion to our consent calendar. If I could, thank you very much. I was just going to say, please state your city before you know, so I know who makes the motion. City of Paris makes that motion. I'm assuming City of Wildemar makes that second. If you would cast your vote. That passes unanimously.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that will conclude our meeting of the foundation. And our next WRCOG Supporting Foundation meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 6, 2016. And we are now adjourned from this item. And we'll take us back to our WRCOG. And we will now have public comments. And I have two speakers. First is Arnold San Miguel from Southern California Association of Governments. Welcome, Mr. Miguel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Just wanted to bring to your attention, we've passed out a little flyer. It's probably in Spanish, so I apologize. I didn't realize that the English and Spanish look exactly the same. And has a person with a Spanish last name. I don't speak Spanish myself. I'm embarrassed to say, but I can read it, but I don't know what it says. But did want to just to encourage you, we are taking input on the draft Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy, and we're going to be at the downtown Riverside Library 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. tomorrow evening. It only takes about 10 to 15 minutes to provide your input, just as an open house setting. So I was joking with people in the audience, it'll probably take you longer to find parking than to give your input. But if you want to hang out for the full 2 hours, that's a great thing too. There's a lot of SCAG staff there, lots of information on the region, and they are getting ready to start writing that draft document. So would appreciate you coming out, give your input. It is a great chance to get staff information in front of staff that maybe they hadn't thought about that should be talked about in the regional plan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Daryl Terrell from Moreno Valley, and while he is making his way to the mic, I will say that I did attend the RTPSCS in Paris, and if you have not had an opportunity to go, it really does provide a lot of information, good information, and gives an opportunity for the community to come in and state their concerns, questions, or support. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair, and to the council. My name is Daryl Terrell, and I live in Moreno Valley. I'm here to talk about a very important issue that we all should be discussing. The headline says it all from the PE, Press Enterprise, Inland Empire on the rise. In contrast, despite the net job growth, not career growth, in the Inland Empire, Western Riverside County is slowly becoming a magnet for low-wage, dead-end jobs with no paths to the middle class. The stark reality is more of our residents are living on islands of poverty than they were 9 years ago, many of whom are working full-time and for part-time wages with no escape. Worse, according to the American Community Survey, the proportion of our residents with a medium household income below the poverty level continues to rise. For our kids, the picture is even more disturbing. Nearly 25% of our kids live in poverty. By 2050, nearly 40% of the future jobs in California require a bachelor's degree, and more than 60 of all new jobs will be in middle-skilled professions that requires some education or training beyond high school, but less than a 4-year degree. Yet, according to the ACS, 45% of our residents 25 years or older have not attended college. 72.7% have not earned a college degree. In today's economy, those with a high school or less education are more likely to experience protracted economic hardship. These numbers show a large portion of our residents are not in the middle class, and their career pathways necessary for them to move up are being closed off, unprepared to compete for the middle-skilled careers in our growth industries. Poverty is not one city's problem, but a regional problem that we can take on together and win. I would like to show you how we, working together, can wage a new war on poverty and win it by submitting into the public record my Raising the Bar initiative, which I presented to my city council to tackle that same issue in my city on March 10th, 2015. And it's basically what my plan was, is to create a path out of poverty and a bridge to the middle class. My initiative is an integrated and holistic methodology to increase college attainment and cultivating an educated, skilled workforce to compete for the careers in our growth industries in manufacturing, IT, healthcare, skilled trade, STEM, and logistics. When President Kennedy looked to the heavens and set our sights on a new frontier, he knew it would inspire us to do big things, reach great heights, rise to any challenge, and defy the odds if we are united in a common purpose. Let's raise the hopes and dreams of our residents throughout Western Riverside County for their American dream by forming a subcommittee to fight a new war on poverty, and let's win this war. The task ahead is not going to be easy, but should serve us as a reminder of all of us that we are one county, we are one people, and we rise and fall together. I think this is one of the biggest, because I know you tackle different issues, but here's one thing I'd like to remind you of. I work 2 jobs, but I have time to come here, but I know people, the biggest obstacle for them to get a job is transportation, bus service. Because what happens is they could go to work, but they can't get home. So what they do, they got to get a taxi cab to go home. So my thing is that we should focus efforts on, when we design bus systems, that they go to where the job centers are. Because because a lot of folks, they have to bomb rides. I used to have to do that. But fortunately, I worked hard and kept on doing it to make it. But that's an issue that we all in this room should address, is poverty. It's the biggest issue that it's the civil rights issue of this century. So I would like to present this into the public record.
If you could give that to Janice, thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Are there any other public speakers?
There was the only one request for Arnold San Miguel.
Okay. That brings us to our consent calendar. And are there any public speakers on the consent calendar?
I have no requests.
Okay. With that, motion by Supervisor Ashley for approval, and Mayor Franklin has a second. Ms. Wright?
Yeah, actually, I had mentioned that I had a question with regards to 5C, but I'm going to wait and ask that when I have the supporting documentation with me or documentation to support what I'm going to ask. So
Okay.
I'll do that at a later date. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. I have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. If you would note my abstention from item I.
Yes, sir.
That passes 20-0 with my abstention from item I. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Were you in there before I did not
No, but because you brought up item I thought that there was a change on AB 1074, and that went to be a 2-year bill. Is that correct, or are we still sending a letter of support for that?
Yeah, we did hear just this morning that bill is a 2-year bill. It's in suspense, but we thought it was still appropriate to go ahead and support it, and we'll see what happens with that bill. It could come back out of suspense.
Okay.
Okay. That brings us to item 6A, our Hero Program Activities Update.
Okay.
Welcome, Ms. Adams.
Hello. Good afternoon. Chairlane, members of the committee, staff, and guests. My name is Crystal Adams. I'm an analyst here at WRCOG for the HERO program. So just as a brief update on the status of our program, we have over 23,400 property owners located in our subregion that have been approved for funding, totaling over $909 million. This completes 14,200 projects totaling over $264 million that have been completed in our subregion. As of this morning, the California HERO program has approved 22,000 applications for $1.4 billion, completing 9,841 projects, and we've currently funded over $215 million. Today I'm here with 8 requested actions for the Executive Committee. 1, to receive a summary of the revised California HERO program report. 2, to conduct a public hearing to include the cities of Avalon, Burlingame, Ceres, Cloverdale, Danville, Davis, Eureka, Galt, Hanford, Harrodsburg, Long Beach for the commercial PACE program only, Rio Vista, and Suisun City. To continue the public hearing regarding the inclusion of the city of Laguna Beach until July 6, 2015. They were unable to do their notice of public hearing and need to be pushed back. To adopt Resolution 1415 to modify the program to include these cities. To accept these cities, as well as adopt Resolution 1515 to set the public hearing for these new cities for July 6, 2015. As well as Resolution 1615, so that way we can levy in various counties that California HERO is based in to put the assessments on each of the individual properties that have completed projects in the 2015 year.
Okay. Any questions of Ms. Adams? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and conduct a public hearing. We're going to declare the public hearing open. And were we able to get the big phone?
We are now teleconferencing through the telephone, not the system, because of technical difficulties.
Okay. So now I'm asking if there is anybody on the phone who wishes to speak.
Do we have any callers online for the California Hero Program item? I hear none.
Okay. And just for the record, I did speak with Mr. DeBon prior to that, finding out to make sure that this was okay. He said that we were fine doing it in this manner. That brings us back up here. Seeing no questions, Mr. DeBon, for the record, we can take all items in one motion.
Yes, we can.
Okay. And with that, I am looking to take items 1 through 7.
So moved. Third district.
Third district moves. Do I have a second? I apologize. City of Calamasa.
Curious if the whole executive committee understands item 8 under the HERO program. I know we discussed it at length.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that one. This one was just a motion for 1 through 7.
Okay.
And then was going to come back to item 8.
All right.
So I have a motion by third district. Do I have a second?
Second, Calamasa.
Second by Calamasa. If you would, cast your votes. That passes 21-0 with no abstentions. And now item 8, I'm assuming that you are wanting to pull item 8. And if you would, go ahead, Mr. Hyatt.
I just want more information, pardon me. The thing is getting louder and louder. More information on this item. We discussed it for quite a while at Admin and Finance. And I think it's important that all the member jurisdictions understand what took place there.
Okay.
And the recommendation is to approve.
Okay. And Mr. Bishop, if you would, please.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to make the clarification. I think many of the jurisdictions that are in Western Riverside County have recently been approached by additional PACE providers, additional companies, corporations that are looking to bring their programs that are HERO-like to their cities or the county. And we started to get a number of requests from our member agencies asking for some guidance on whether or not they should do this, how they should entertain it. So we brought the issue to our Administration and Finance Committee this month for some discussion and a direction. And what I like to do is go through the PowerPoint, which is not on my screen. There we go, to kind of give you some background on this and let you know what the recommendations from the Admin Committee are. I think, as you all know, HERO is the only PACE program that PACE's Property Assessed Clean Energy program that's operating here in Western Riverside County. Jurisdictions are being approached by other providers. And it is not uncommon. We did some research. It is not uncommon for cities and counties to offer more than one PACE program in their jurisdiction. These data that you see on the bottom 2 bullets is a little bit old, but just kind of gives you an idea that about a third of the cities or counties that are operating PACE programs within their jurisdictions are doing it with more than one provider. And so as background, we wanted to kind of provide that to you. Next slide. As I mentioned in March, I did not mention this, but in March, we, through the Admin and Finance Committee, we brought an item to them because we were approached by another PACE provider, by a company that's referred to as Renewable Funding, and they wanted to provide and implement a program in Western Riverside County. And what made their request unique was that they basically wanted WRCOG to act as its program administrator in Western Riverside County in the same manner that we do for the HERO program. So they were basically asking to come in and do business, but to come in under the WRCOG umbrella, where we would act as the program administrator and manager. And we kind of like that idea and the logic path there, and you're going to see this repeated through this discussion, is that by doing so, WRCOG can provide the same quality control for that particular program as it does for HERO. The only downside to that is that our current agreement with Renovate America, they're the residential financing arm in our private public sector agreement. Our current agreement with them does not allow for us to provide services similar to those that we provide with Renovate to other providers. I should say that legal counsel and I are right now in the process of revising that agreement. So we think that there may be opportunities for that provision to get changed to allow us to do so, but that remains to be seen. So the question is, what should WRCOG's position be towards additional PACE providers who are desiring to conduct business here in Western Riverside County? Should we take a position at all regarding this? And then if so, to what extent should we convey that to our member jurisdictions? That's the purpose of this presentation. We developed three options. We presented these three options to our Administration and Finance Committee. The first one is basically to stay out of it completely, and if requested, we could provide some pros and cons to our member jurisdictions. The second option was that we could request that the member jurisdictions commit to HERO as the sole PACE provider, and I'll articulate a bit more on that in a minute. And the third option is to request that member jurisdictions require additional PACE providers to partner with WRCOG if they're to come into this subregion in order to make sure that we maintain the consistency and controls over their programs that are currently being undertaken with the WRCOG HERO program. Just to kind of expand a little bit on and provide you some pros and cons on each of the options. The first one is just provide pros and cons and basically stay out of it. The pros is, one of the things that we're particularly sensitive to is we don't want to be in the business of telling jurisdictions what to do. That's not our mission. That's not our goal, and we've never done that before, and we're concerned about any action being conveyed or construed as such. There's also no additional workload assumed by us if other providers come into town except to field calls, and we are certain this would probably happen where people might be concerned about another program providing service to them and get that mixed up with WRCOG, and we suspect we'd be fielding a lot of phone calls from folks who are disgruntled with another PACE provider's activities under the assumption that it's us. And so we expect that we would probably have our hands full with that for a while. The real con here is that I think that there's an extreme comfort, or at least a lot of comfort, among our member jurisdictions that the HERO program has administrative oversight by WRCOG. It allows for us to be very responsive to you as our member agencies as issues arise, and it's an arrangement that really has worked out very well considering the growth and the speed of the growth of the program. And so the concern here is that without any input or control over these newer programs, poorly run programs could certainly negatively impact HERO, sort of a guilt by association. There also is a revenue stream that comes to WRCOG in its role as the program administrator for HERO, and there certainly are secondary or potentially tertiary impacts from new programs coming in and that revenue stream being eroded. That's a secondary or tertiary concern. The second option was to request that the local jurisdictions commit to the HERO program as the sole PACE provider in the subregion and have us transmit correspondence outlining the reasons why we think this might be a good idea. The pros, again, there's probably going to be less confusion for property owners. It's easier for them just to deal with a single program rather than multiple programs. The control aspect of the program and being responsive to you is certainly been conveyed to us as a big plus in the program, and the revenue stream is not impacted. The cons, again, there's this perception that I think we're all very sensitive to, is that WRCOG would be telling jurisdictions what to do, which is not what we're in the business of doing. And then the other issue is, is limiting choices, and in this case, PACE program choices, in the best interest of you and your constituents. And that's a question that was raised at the Admin and Finance Committee. It was a question that was raised at the Technical Advisory Committee. Is competition among PACE providers actually good? And there are many arguments that would suggest that it might be. The next option is to request, and again, this is something that can only occur if we are able to revise our existing agreement with Renovate America, and that would be to request that any additional PACE providers who desiring to do business with the local jurisdictions, that they partner with WRCOG in an administrative role. That would make it very easy in the member jurisdictions because they wouldn't have to take any additional actions to allow these providers in town. And it also certainly addresses the issue of control and administrative oversight. If there's a con in this, it's that there's additional workload in staffing, but we certainly could deal with that on a reimbursement basis as we enter into contracts. So the Admin and Finance Committee considered all these options, and what they recommended is to kind of blend options 2 and 3 together, and that is to make a recommendation to the member jurisdictions that they commit to HERO as the sole provider in Western Riverside County. And then secondly, if by chance a jurisdiction is not comfortable with doing that and they want to move ahead, is to then request that jurisdiction, subject to our ability to renegotiate our agreement with Renovate America in a way that would allow us to conduct business with other PACE providers, that the jurisdictions would require that those providers move through WRCOG in a manner that would make their programs consistent with the HERO model. And the reasons for that recommendation, if I am articulating this correctly on behalf of the Admin and Finance Committee, and certainly those of you that were on the committee can add in here, is that the jurisdictions would probably be well served to wait and watch these new programs come online. They're new compared to ours. They're not operating at the scale that ours is. Whether or not they have consumer protections that ours does, and whether they're being implemented in the same way ours is, it might be a little bit easier to watch that unfold in other jurisdictions rather than here. And if those programs are successful in the same manner that they are in Western Riverside County, then perhaps the jurisdictions could consider bringing them on board. And then again, as I mentioned, sort of the overarching theme here is that I gathered from the Admin and Finance Committee is that oversight from WRCOG of additional programs provides that enhanced level of accountability. So if I haven't been able to capture the sense of the Admin and Finance Committee, there's many of you on the committee that can correct me. So the recommendation that is being provided from the Admin and Finance Committee to the Executive Committee is what you see here on the screen. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
With that, are there any questions of Mr. Bishop? City of Harupa Valley.
I just want to make sure that I understand the options. So if in fact Renovate America is okay with this, then this blended option works as a suggestion that the committee made. However, if they don't agree, then we're back up to just the first part of the recommendation, which is asking all our jurisdictions to only go with the HERO program. And is that just simply a request, not a requirement?
Correct.
I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, my understanding is that's exactly right.
Okay, so then they would still, if they so felt, had the option of bringing in another provider. It just probably wouldn't be administered through WRCOG.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no one in the queue, I am looking for a motion for item number 8. San Jacinto moves to approve. Do I have a second? Eastville seconds. If you would, cast your votes. That passes unanimously, 21-0. Thank you, Ms. Adams, for your presentation.
Thank you.
That now takes us to a report from the League of California Cities. Welcome, Ms. Sassy.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here today. As you all know, we do have the May revise out for the budget. The deadline for the budget is June 15th, so we're in the last couple weeks of making any sort of amendments and getting that approved. I did want to talk to you about the budget just to make sure that everybody understands where we're at. Overall, the budget wasn't really bad for cities. There was a full mandate repayment for local governments, which is definitely some good news. I did want to talk about the local government piece because it is all tied together. But before that, just one other note. There was $40 million allocated for frontline public safety. This has been something that's been in the budget the last couple of cycles. Unfortunately, at this point, it's looking like they want to reduce that funding to $20 million, and 15 of the $20 million would be dedicated for body cameras. So definitely would want to encourage all of you to talk to your legislators, encourage them to get that back up to the $40 million. Up to you whether or not you want it to be dedicated to body cameras. We would prefer it to be for whatever purposes the counties want to use it, but that's a significant reduction. It's already not a lot of money. How the money flows is that one person per county is in charge. They get the money, they distribute it out. I know in Riverside County it goes to a task force. So we definitely use that money in a positive way. So we'll see what happens with that. But you'd want to get your voices heard on that money to get it increased back to the $40 million. For the budget, there has been the redevelopment proposal that Department of Finance has proposed, and we've been opposed to that from the get-go. We're still opposed to that, but there's definitely some sweeteners that were added and some things that were removed that makes it a little bit better, but it's still a bad proposal overall. The item that is attached to this, which is a little tricky for our area because now we've got some harmful provisions and somewhat positive provisions is the funding for the 4 new cities. And I wanted to just make sure everybody understood what this piece of it is. This is not a policy fix. This is not restoring the funding. What this is basically a debt forgiveness for the 4 new cities, which is Eastvale, Harupa Valley, Wildomar, and Menifee. So what happens with this is that the state will give additional funds for the county for their CAL FIRE services. So basically $24+ million goes to the county of Riverside to reduce what they owe the state for CAL FIRE. The county is then supposed to work with the 4 cities to have a debt forgiveness. The amount of money that's owed to the county varies city by city. And originally, Eastvale was actually left out of the language in this bill. They've since been amended back in. The one thing Eastvale doesn't have is debt for the county, though. So I know that this has been out there saying, yes, this is a win for the 4 new cities. Yes, it's definitely positive. There's money. I don't think any of the cities would disagree that it's negative to have funding coming back to their cities, but this, like I said, is not the actual fix of the overall problem. So I just want to make sure everybody understands. If the 4 cities want to chime in on this, I'm happy to let them do that. But the league is overall still opposed to the actual budget trailer bill because everything is tied to one, and there still is the redevelopment component that has some very harmful provisions. This will be moving fast in the next couple of weeks. If you have any sort of concerns on anything, you should definitely be making sure your legislators are aware of that. Senator Roth is the chair of the Senate Budget Subcommittee for the budget. It's already gone through him. He's been very helpful with the redevelopment provisions, but things will be moving fast. So just a couple of other items I wanted to mention. AB 278, which is the district-based elections bill, has made it out of committee. This would require cities with 100,000 people or more to move to a district-based election. I know I've been talking about this bill the last couple of years. It doesn't necessarily apply to all of you yet, but the worry is that once they start it with 100,000 population cities, it will just eventually move to every city. So you should all be looking at that bill. You should all be opposing it. We also had our medical marijuana bill that we were sponsoring with the Police Chiefs Association. This is AB 266, and we had one that we were opposing, AB 34. As of last week, these 2 bills are being merged, and it looks like the agreement will be to keep a lot of the language from AB 266, which really upholds local control, which is definitely positive for all of you. The language isn't out yet, though, so there's still some negotiations. One of the other items that would change is that instead of ABC being in charge of regulating the medical marijuana dispensaries, it would go to a new office created within the governor's office. So more information will be coming out about this. We still will be supporting it. We think the police chiefs will be supporting it, but rather than having one that we oppose and one we support, it looks like we'll have one that we overall support. So that's definitely positive news for helping keep that local control. SB 25 did pass out of suspense last week, too. This is the bill for the new cities. So it's still moving forward. Whether or not that actually would get passed by the governor when there is this funding in the budget is unknown and probably unlikely. Another bill that I wanted to bring to your attention is SB 593 by McGuire. This has to do with TOT tax. Basically, there's been some amendments. This bill would require the Board of Equalization to collect and remit the TOT tax. This is not something we want to see happen. We don't think the state should be in the business of collecting your TOT tax. So you definitely want to oppose this if TOT is important to your city. And then one other bill, SB 239 by Hertzberg. This has to do with contracting for fire services. This bill would require LAFCO approval to have any sort of change within your fire services and written approval by the union. This bill has kind of been flying under the radar a little bit, but there's a broad coalition that opposes it. All of your cities should be opposing it because it's just one start. If they're telling you how you can and can't contract, it's going to start with fire services, then what else is it going to go to? So you should all be sending in an opposition letter on that as well. Just one other item. Last year we had the solar permit bill that would require cities to give preferential treatment to permits for the solar industry. There's a new bill this year. It's AB 1236. It's basically the same bill, but applies to electronic vehicle permitting stations. So if this is something that is concerning to you, you should definitely be looking at that because now you'll also have to give electronic vehicle permit stations preferential treatment, just like the solar industry. So every year you're getting a new requirement for what you have to give preferential treatment to, which I know just ties your hands and makes it a little bit more difficult. Like I said, things are moving pretty fast with the budget. I know that sometimes I'll reach out and say, we need phone calls made right now, so just bear with me if I do reach out to you on that. I'd be happy to take any questions But thank you for your time.
City of Wildemar.
Back to the solution for the 4C. You said Eastville was written back into the language. How much money they're receiving and how was that done?
Well, no money is being completely allocated within the actual bill. It's a negotiation that really has to happen with the county. So the county has information on what each city has in terms of what debt they owe the county. So, I mean, how this all pans out is really comes down to negotiations.
Eastville, did you have any debt? My understanding is there was no debt at Eastville, and that's why they weren't in the language.
Right. I mean, but there's...
Yeah, we're paying ours off too, but that's what I'm not clear on. How did they get written in it, or what are they getting out of this?
So that would be, like I said, part of the negotiation between each city and the county. How the money gets distributed to the cities is really going to be up to the county.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's not like a formula is written into the bill that says X city will get X based on this. It's not that at all.
24 million, and we divvy it up. Oh, great. That'll be fun. We'll play sticks. Okay.
City of San Jacinto.
Can you give us an update on the bill that is pushing forward the Rest to Right Act?
Yeah, so it was SB 608. That one's actually dead at this time, so it could come back. Sometimes that always happens. But as of right now, it is not moving forward.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
City of Temecula.
Thank you. Can you give us an update on the bill that's requiring council districts?
Oh, that's AB 278. That one did make it out of the committee. So there's a good chance that that will pass this year. So I do recommend that everybody oppose it. AB 278 is the 100,000 population or more to go to district-based elections. Is that the one that was specific for LA? I can check on that for you. I don't.
City of Norco.
I just didn't get the number again on the TOT tax. I wanted to talk about that in Norco. What was the number?
SB 593.
593. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that brings us to our agency budget for fiscal year 2015-16. Mr. Ernie Arena. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Executive Committee. I have the privilege to present to you the fiscal year 15-16 agency budget. Contained within your agenda packets, you'll see not only the detail but the summary of the budget themselves. I just want to let you know how it's laid out. I have 3 columns that I've listed, and the first column itself is last year's approved budget. The second column is the actuals through a certain time of this year, which was February 28th of 2015. And the third column is the proposed 15-16 budget, just to give you an idea of how we put that together. So today's presentation is going to cover a few things. I want to first start off with the schedule, a review of where we started with this budget, where we went to, and how we got approved and how we got here. We also want to show you how the departments are put together here at WRCOG. We have 4 departments and all the programs that correspond to those departments here as well. I want to talk to you about the revenues and expenditures, where we're projecting those to be for this year, as well as give you some highlights for the budget themselves and where we stand with this year's budget versus last year's budget. Well, we started with the budget way back on March 26th. We took it to our finance directors for the first time there. They had the opportunity to listen to it, to review it, give us some comments. They moved it for approval, moved it on. We took it to our Admin and Finance Committee as well as a Technical Advisory Committee. We went through each committee twice, and now we're here today at the Executive Committee, and we'll be moving on to the General Assembly in just 10 days. So we've had 2 full reviews of each committees, and here we stand now today. So starting with the budget structure, how do we put it together? The budget itself is comprised by 4 departments. We have 4 departments here, and the first being our administration department. We also have our energy department, which is where our HERO programs are housed. We have an environment department as well as a transportation department where our TUN program is housed. For financial statement purposes, the first three departments that I mentioned, the admin, energy, and environment, comprise our general fund here at WRCOG, and we do have one special revenue fund, and that is our TUMF program, which is in the transportation department itself. Each of these four departments receives its own source of revenue and budgets its own expenditures and are fully self-sufficient. I want to talk a little bit about the first department I mentioned, which is our admin department. Its sole source of revenue is made up of the member dues. The member dues equate to about $300,000. That's not quite enough to cover all of the expenditures within that department, so the admin department actually charges overhead to the three other departments to cover that amount there. We also put the General Assembly revenue and the budget inside of the admin department. We track that separately, but it is contained within the admin department. All of the expenditures you do see in the admin department are everything that are not associated with the other three departments, and those would include things such as the audit fees, the bank fees, legal, rent, and some payroll items that tie certain employees to this department. So all in total, we have 4 employees that are being charged full-time here, and we have 4 that are being charged on a part-time basis. Those that are included part-time here and in other places, other 3 departments as well. Next, we have our energy department. This is where our HERO program is located, and some of the other programs that we have here, as you can see, are both our local and our statewide HERO program. We have our partnership programs with SCE as well as the gas company. We have 2 new programs coming aboard here, one being the Regional Streetlight Program, and the other is the Active Transportation Program, as well as our Western Riverside Energy Leadership Partnership Program. Each of these departments I just mentioned is self-sustaining. They receive their own set of revenues. And staff is targeting these revenues to be projected about $10.6 million. Of that amount, we're looking at about $6 million in total gross revenue for both HERO programs. When we look at expenditures for the HERO program, for the energy program, they're about $10.6 million, of which we're listing 4.8 as the excess revenue for the HERO programs. Here we're looking at 6 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees in the energy department. Moving on to the environment department, we have 3 programs that make up this department, which are the Clean Cities, Recycling, and Used Oil. These all receive some sort of revenue, either member dues or state grant related. They do receive their own set of revenues. Some of the funding amounts do vary from year to year, so the energy department actually will augment these programs to help maintain a certain level of service. Revenues here are equal to expenditures at $521,000, and we budget 3 full-time employees here as well as 1 part-time employee. Lastly, we have our transportation department. This includes, of course, our TUMF, our Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee Program, as well as our Air Quality Management District and our local transportation fund. Here, all these programs receive their own source of revenues. One thing I want to point out is with our TUMF program, we budget the 4% on the TUMF itself, and that's the portion that we write checks against, and it's not the full TUMF amount. So the amount is about $1 million on the TUMF side. The Transportation Department does augment the AQMD program to maintain a certain level of service, and revenues and expenditures here are about $2 million each. And we're charging 4 full-time employees and 5 part-time employees in the Transportation Department. I want to go over some of the budget highlights with you. Just to reemphasize, every department receives its own source of revenues and is self-sufficient. As a whole, WRCOG is looking at total revenues of $13.7 million, and that's broken out by the following. In the Administration Department, we have $309,000. In the Energy Department, we have $10.6 million. In the Environment Department, about $500,000. And in the Transportation Department, we have about $2 million. When we look at the agency as a whole, we're looking at budgeted revenues that are going to be 56% higher from that of last year. And we talk about just specifically HERO program revenues, we're looking at 46% higher than the prior fiscal year. And when we talk about just TUMF revenues, we're talking about revenues that are going to be 85%, projected to be 85% higher than that from last year. On the expenditure side as a whole, WRCOG is looking at $13.5 million in expenditures, and that's broken down by the following. In our admin department, we're going to have about $537,000 in expenditures. Our energy program department will have $10.6 million. Our environment will have $521,000, and our transportation department will have about $2 million in those expenditures. When we look at the expenditures in the budget themselves, we see that the largest single dollar line item is going to be for consulting, and that's at $2.2 million. some of our consultants that we use here at WRCOG are from the HERO program. One of the biggest one is the public financial management that we use to help the program itself, as well as David Tozig and Associates. And some on the transportation client side include Parsons Brinkerhoff and WG Engineering as well. So with that, what I'm looking for here is that the WRCOG Executive Committee approve the WRCOG budget for fiscal year 2015. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Reyna? Okay, I am seeing none. So I am looking for a motion. Calamesa motions and City of Hemet seconds. Do we have anybody wishing to speak on this item from the public?
I have no requests.
Okay. If you would, please cast your votes. Okay, that passes 20-0 unanimously. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
That now brings us to a report from our WRCOG TAC Chair, Mr. Dudley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the last TAC meeting, we had a presentation on the HERO program, very similar to what the Executive Committee heard this afternoon. And we also had presentations by representatives from both Eastern and Western on what they understand about the drought up to that point. Of course, we'll all be seeing changes in the next few weeks, so we'll have more information as time goes by. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. That brings us to our reports from committee representatives. Anybody from our SCAG representatives? City of Banning.
I'd like to share that I did attend the annual demographic workshop this morning. A lot of information was presented about birth rates as well as housing trends, and all that information will be available on the SCAG website after today.
Thank you. Anybody else from SCAG that would like to? Okay, seeing none, takes us to our AQMD rep, Councilman Benoit, Mayor Benoit.
Thank you. One bit of funding that's opened up at the AQMD under MSRC is the Clean Transportation Local Government Match Program funding. It's $13 million in funding. There is a county minimum of $1.6 million, so that's how much is dedicated to our county. If we don't all participate in this program, that $1.6 million could go to other counties. So we want to make sure we get our applications in. The period for applications starts on June 2nd, so tomorrow, and runs until September 4th. Most of it is a dollar per dollar match funding. This can go for anything from new fueling stations, new alternate fueling stations, that is, upgrade expansion of existing refueling stations, upgrade existing fleet maintenance and facilities to accommodate different non-gas vehicles, active transportation projects, including bicycle infrastructure and related programs, electric vehicle charging stations, purchase of medium-duty and alternate fuel vehicles, and purchase of zero-emission vehicles or electric lawnmowers. So this is a lot of different funding opportunities. If anyone's interested in this, please go to cleantransportationfunding.org. As well as we had the lawnmower exchange program just this weekend in the city of Riverside, and I don't have the numbers on that yet, but I know we participated in getting a lot of people out of electric lawnmowers and getting a lot of gas lawnmowers out of the district. With that, if you have any questions about AQMD, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Washington from CalCog.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. That takes us to our Executive Director, Mr. Bishop.
Thank you. Just a couple of things to report on the screen. Anything on the screen? Nothing on the screen? There we go. There we go. First thing, just as a reminder, we are about 10 days out from our General Assembly. Governor Rick Perry is our speaker. We're close to a sellout, so hopefully we can sell those last few tickets. And I think we've been corresponding with each of the member jurisdictions. Make sure you're there for the VIP reception. This is the 11th year in a row, I think, that Morongo has served as our event host. Cannot thank them enough for the great work that they do. So hopefully it'll be another fantastic event. Thank you. Secondly, we've been real fortunate to receive some recognition in the last month or two. Just a week or two ago, we received an award from the California chapter, the Inland Empire section of the American Planning Association, for our Captivate Western Riverside County Plan. This is an award we received for innovation in green unity planning, so we're real thrilled to receive that award. And then secondly, we've been fortunate to receive an award from the Urban Land Institute, Orange County and Inland Empire. They hold a Best of the Best award ceremony each year, and this year we were the recipient of ULI's Industry Leadership Award, something we're very pleased to receive. I think that concludes that. Also, I'm sorry. A week or so ago, we had our first ever joint meeting with the San Bernardino Association of Governments, also known as Sandbag. We had 3 panel sessions that discussed local control of Ontario Airport to get an update. We also had panel sessions on economic development and healthy communities. So there's been an increased expression of interest for us to dialogue with our neighbors to the north. This was the first such meeting that we've had. It was a little bit lightly attended on the Sandbag side, but we're hoping that by chance we can have additional meetings in the future, and we appreciate very much your attendance. That concludes. Oh, that's not the conclusion of my report. We just added this. Okay, last thing. Is this the last thing? Thanks. Also, I wanted to mention that you might be seeing, I believe, along the 91, right? The 91 freeway with the county, WRCOG is initiating a series of billboard ad campaigns on the digital billboards, and we're conveying a number of real simple messages as part of our Healthy Communities Subcommittee. This is something that was generated from our Healthy Communities Subcommittee that includes a number of executive committee members and city managers. So over the course of the next month or so, we're doing this trial campaign with real simple messages being conveyed to members of the public and commuters as they drive about trying to eat healthier, smile more, put on sunscreen, and do all sorts of things that might contribute to them having a better quality of life. So look out for those billboards.
Okay. And do we have any items for future agendas? Seeing none, that takes us to general announcements. Any general announcements for the good of the order? Yes, sir.
Is it on now? Yes, it is. I'm sorry. Tomorrow at EMWD in our boardroom at 11:30 till 1, we're holding a briefing to discuss the newest state regulations, water use and drought regulations. It's open to all the local public agencies. Probably each of you has already been alerted to it or have representatives going. If you're not going, if you don't have somebody from your staff attending, you might want to do that. This is obviously something we're all going to be grappling with in the future, so I would encourage it.
Thank you. Any other general announcements? I have 2. The first one is, and I apologize for not stating this at the beginning of the meeting, we are now live streaming our meetings on the WRCOG website. So if you have people who are interested, we now have the ability to watch that online. Secondly, while I know that we still have the General Assembly left, this is my official last meeting up here on the dais as your... Let's work on our external filters, Mr. Washington. This is my last meeting as chair of WRCOG, and so I just wanted to say thank you. I have enjoyed being your chair. I've enjoyed the opportunity to serve in this capacity, and it's been an interesting year. It's always fun, and I appreciate Rick for all the support that he gives the chair, and I'm sure Mr. Tisdale will know when he gets into this that Mr. Bishop is a huge help as we go through this process. I want to thank staff for all of their help, Mr. Devon with my constant questions on the legal side, and everybody else for the work that they have done in bringing forward our agendas and making it go very smoothly, and Janice for her patience with me as well. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, and I have enjoyed the opportunity to serve as your chair. And with that, we are going to go into closed session. Okay, we are back on and we are back. So if we could, Mr. Devon.
Yes, if we could do the motion again and vote in open session.
Okay. Mr. Nagar.
Thank you. I made a motion that we extend Mr. Bishop's contract by 2 years, taking it out to September 2018. Also moved as part of that motion that he receive a one-time bonus of $10,000.
Thank you.
And since our seconder isn't here, can I go ahead and make the second? Steve?
Absolutely.
All right, I'll second that.
Motion by Temecula, seconded by Wildemar. And if you would, please cast your votes.
So as I look at this, some individuals have left, correct?
Okay, and that passes unanimously. All right, with that, that will take us to our next meeting on June 11th at the Morongo Resort and Casino. We are adjourned.
See you guys.